Hello, Internet, and welcome to the lucky number 13th episode of Madam Out at the Movies. I'm your host for another week, Matt Parkinson, joined by some random guy on the other side of the Internet, Matt Gerald.
Oh, we've only been doing this for 3 months now. Yeah, I guess random is what I am.
It's all you are to me.
Thanks.
So we said last week that we were going to talk about Serena today, but I saw it like half a year ago and don't really remember it, and I know Gerald had no interest in seeing it. So we've decided to make a substitution. Instead of Serena, we're going to talk about a much more interesting movie, It Follows, which I didn't think I was going to get. It turns out that we poor Canadians actually did get it, so I got to see it. Also on the show today, we've got two big wide releases, Get Hard, starring Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart, as well as Home, a new animated film from DreamWorks. This is the last episode of the month, so we'll also be taking a look back at the month that was, and a look forward to the month that will be in April. So first up, we're going to talk about It Follows. This is a kind of an odd horror movie. It stars Micah Monroe as Jay, someone who has sex with her boyfriend, then gets drugged and tied up. That's where its predictability ends. See, the boyfriend does this so that he can pass along a curse, which sees this weird being follow you wherever you go, slowly walking directly toward you. If it catches you, you die. The only way to escape from it is to pass the curse along to someone else. The rest of the movie sees Jay and her group of friends trying to escape, kill, or figure out a way to avoid this thing. Gerald, what'd you think of It Follows?
This Halloween, Michael Myers will... Oh, wait, no. Wrong movie. But no, it may as well be, because it does pay a lot of homage to late 70s and early 80s horror films in its look and feel, for sure. But this is the best movie I've seen in March.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it's actually genuinely, not terrifying, because it's hard to make a movie genuinely terrifying nowadays, but...
Yeah, or at least for people like us who have seen 1,000 horror films and what have you. But, yeah, I mean, it uses its horror elements fairly well. The biggest problem with its horror is that it can be a lot of tropes. Again, like I said, it pays a lot of homage to 70s and 80s horror films. But its atmosphere is such that it builds tension fairly well. It doesn't overly rely on jump startles.
There are a few, but it's not bad.
It's largely earned. Generally, it's like it doesn't telegraph them, and then it doesn't rely on gore and such like that to really get under your skin. It really is about a slow burn of this thing following you. You don't know who it is necessarily, because
you don't know why it does it. It doesn't really matter even.
Yeah,
it's just a thing that's going to happen.
It is an inevitability that will always be there, and you can't escape it, or you think you can't escape it, and that part works very well.
Yeah, it is a very slow movie, though.
It is.
It's not a problem. It's just a description.
Well, what makes it okay is that it's not a long film, so its slowness works with the tension of the building of tension. So that part functions, in my opinion.
And I mean, I think one of the most important elements to It Follows is the soundtrack.
Yes,
this is a beautiful soundtrack.
Yes, it is. I mean, as I said, it does. That's one of those things that it gets from the 70s and 80s. It sounds a lot like Halloween, that's why I brought up Michael Myers and Halloween.
Which is not a problem.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily think of it as a ripoff, because it does feel like he's paying tribute to it, especially because it's a good movie, so it doesn't feel like he's just trying to copy-paste the formula from Halloween. There's actually even, I think, a snippet at the end where it sounds like he's actually playing the song from Halloween. I don't know if it's not, it's very similar.
Similar, yeah.
So, but yeah, the soundtrack throughout, and I was kind of worried that it would be very heavy-handed, because oftentimes with horror soundtracks, it's loud and obtrusive and gets in the way, but here it really helps build that tension. I do think it could have done better playing with silence, because part of tension that works well is when it's quiet and then when the sound changes. But it's not bad in this regard. I think it could have done better, but still.
Possibly. There are some silent moments.
No, there are. I'm not saying that there aren't. It's just, there are certain tense moments where
That's fair.
the soundtrack is it's trying to make me feel tense, and it somewhat works, but at the same time, it's like, okay, let's scale it back, because there are times where you don't need a soundtrack, you just need pure silence.
Especially with this creature.
Well,
which...
so the scene that I'm thinking of, and it relates to that creature, is when they're in her bedroom, and they've shut the door, and you see this in the trailer where, okay, it turns out that it's her friend knocking, and then the creature shows up right behind her. Mm-hmm. But during that scene, the soundtrack is still going, and so it's like, okay, tone it down. It still works in the end, but I'm wondering if it would have been better had they not had the blaring soundtrack going.
It might be an interesting thing to almost home edit once it hits home video. Just
Possibly.
to see how it affects it.
Maybe.
I mean, sometimes the soundtrack, if you take it out, the scene becomes completely ridiculous. I mean, I know when I was in film school, we did that with the shower scene in Psycho.
Yeah.
It completely ruined the scene.
I can imagine.
No, I don't think that the same thing's going to happen here, but it'll be interesting to see the effect of it.
Yeah. I mean, especially because the creature is really effective.
Yeah.
I mean, we're never told what it is. We're never told why it is.
It takes multiple forms. It takes forms of people, often naked people.
Yeah, which, I mean, one of the characters dies. He literally gets ridden to death. And I mean that in a sexual way, yes. But, yeah, and I think that brings up what is the main theme of this movie. And it seems... like, it's up to interpretation. I read it as a parable about STDs, which, I mean, it kind of fits in with the 70s and 80s, again, with the homage, where oftentimes the victims were sexually promiscuous teenagers, and so,
well, that's become a horror trope at this point. If you have sex in a horror movie, you die.
Yeah, so it seems like it's... because how is it passed on? It's passed on through having sex. So it's effective in that regard.
I think that's the main subtext. I think you've got it right there.
I think so. I mean, I read what the director said about it. He actually said that he didn't really have anything in mind, and then in his mind it doesn't really matter, that it's more about, it's this nightmare that just follows you that you can't escape. And that works. But yeah, I mean, I think the fact that, okay, it's passed on through sex, it's paying homage to these older films. I think, yeah, it's supposed to be read as...
and it doesn't even have to be a parabola. It is a sexually transmitted disease.
Well, yeah.
Like, it basically is.
Yeah. It's funny to watch it change forms, too, because, I mean, it's interesting when you first see... when she first sees it, and it's this old woman walking... she's at school, and she sees out the window, it's this old woman walking...
That's the second time.
Well,
the first time is when she's tied up, and
well, yeah, but when it's really and truly her, because I think when she sees that first one, it's really what he's seeing, and then she is now seeing it because
fair enough.
But her own first experience. But yeah, it's this old woman, and like, okay, and then it's like we go from this big hulking man to this
the tall man. That's the creepiest one, I think.
Yeah, that's the one that you get in the in that bedroom scene that I mentioned. Yeah. Another one where she turns the corner in her kitchen, and there's this woman who, I guess it looks like she's been raped or something, it looks like, and because she's like all wet and her clothes are disheveled and whatever, so and that was kind of creepy, because especially because it's a close-up. Mm-hmm. Or was there ever one that was a kid? Yeah, actually kind of, because the one when they're in the shed or whatever you want to call it, and it breaks through the bottom of the door.
Yep. And then there's just a naked man standing on the roof.
Yeah, and then the younger man who's throwing stuff at her in the pool.
It's creepy.
It is.
It is.
And like, you never really get any sort of interaction in terms of, like, it doesn't talk. It just looks and walks, and that's it. And
then rips you apart.
Yeah, when you say it just in general that all it does is just look and walk, that makes it sound boring, but in context, it really fits. I do
even the unrelated kill at the beginning.
yeah,
works.
It sets it up for what exactly is going on. They don't actually. I mean, they kind of show you it briefly at the beginning. And at first, I was like, okay, why are we jumping straight into with our character? This shouldn't be. And it turns out it's a completely unrelated character. They were just setting up that this is what this thing does.
It's a horror trope I don't usually like, but I thought it was pretty effective here.
I would say so. Yeah.
I mean, it establishes it as this threat, this invisible threat, often.
Yeah.
I mean, the only people who can see it are the people afflicted with the curse. I don't think we've mentioned that yet.
Yeah.
And then you see the person's leg ripped in half, and she's lying dead on the beach, and you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is not pretty.
It's not just this crazy person running around the street.
Yeah. It does seem to, like, there's some kind of reference to, like, pools and water for some, because it's a contiguous thing where it keeps talking about her, like, you see her swimming in her pool, and the climax takes place in a pool. So I'm trying to figure out, what, like, is there something that's supposed to be important about that? Because they don't really say.
I'm not sure if there is. Maybe it's something that scholarly types will take a look at for years to come, but
I mean, maybe.
I don't think there was anything really included.
Yeah, I don't know why that it, because, like, they keep, like, she's got a picture of herself in a pool.
She starts that we first see her in a pool.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that it's kind of random is the neighbor kids spying on her. Like, they're spying on her in the pool, and then there's one of the jump startles is where she's in her underwear in the bathroom, and one of the kids is spying on her through the window. But that doesn't go anywhere.
No.
It has no purpose, so I don't understand that part. But, so...
Even still...
Yeah.
The film works.
It does work. Now, the question that's going to be most amusing to me, is this for you better or worse than last year's The Babadook?
I liked it more. It was creepier. It worked better just as a pure horror movie.
Okay.
I didn't hate I didn't like the Babadook had that one kid. And even if it was purposeful, even if it was intentional, I can't get over that annoying kid. This movie did not have that kid. Therefore, it's a better movie.
Still had a bunch of teenagers.
Yes, it did, but they were smarter than your average horror teenager.
Kinda, although there was that one instance where she goes off by herself and for some reason she's sleeping on the top of her car. It's like she's literally a target outside of her car.
Yes, it's true.
Why? I don't understand.
For the most part.
Yeah. And then for some reason, there's no adults in this movie. Or not really. Like, they're there for, I think you might see for like 1 second. But other than that, their parents are gone.
No, there's the teacher who we see briefly.
But I mean, like, their parents, like, they talk about them all the time. It's like, don't tell mom or whatever.
Yep.
But you never see them.
And I wonder if that has anything to do with... Maybe that's reading in a lot. I wonder if that has anything to do with the pool. If some event happened there that they've mentally blocked out I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I think for me, it's one of those tropes of these films again that is paying on, because in like Halloween and stuff like that, parents aren't there
really
for
see
some.
The parents, it's true.
But they at least give you a reason why. In this movie, they don't. They're just not there.
Yeah, apparently the mother can sleep through everything.
Something.
And is always asleep.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like, okay, where is she? Like, when she's knocking over things and she's screaming and, like, she runs out of her window and runs away to a park and
this is right after they're like, is Mom asleep? Probably she has to get up at 5. Well, okay, so she's there.
Yeah, so that part, that's kind of a plot hole to me, but so I am still going to say The Babadook is better just because I like its thematic elements of grief and depression. And
you like grief and depression more than STDs? How dare you?
From a psychological perspective, yeah, because I like the psychological element, especially because that plays into the horror element and the monster. And I like its use of lighting and shadows and sound and silence better than this.
It also had a bit more ambiguity.
Exactly, and I kind of like that. And there's some ambiguity in this. I mean, especially with how it ends.
It's a good final scene.
It is a good final scene. It's one of those kind of semi-fade to black endings, and yet it actually works this time. because like you don't really have a resolution exactly. You kind of do, but you don't. But it works because of what the type of story it's trying to tell. You see the theme of inevitability being there. I guess you also kind of get that in semi-heavy-handed. Her friend literally has a clamshell phone. And she's reading Dostoevsky's The Idiot throughout, and a lot of it talks about like the inevitability of suffering and death. And so it's kind of that same thing where it's the inevitability of this creature because it will never leave you alone. I mean, the tagline is like, it doesn't feel, it doesn't think, it doesn't give up, it follows. So,
although I think the tagline contradicts the movie. I mean, the character does say it's slow, but it's not stupid.
Yeah.
It's got to be thinking at some point.
Maybe. I don't know.
It's a catchy tagline anyway.
It is catchy, at least for me. But, yeah, I really liked It Follows. I think this is up there as one of the best of the year so far. And
although that's not saying a whole lot.
Sad but true. But this is also the best of the month for me. So I was very glad to see it. I also caught it at a midnight screening, so that was really fun too. It Follows, really good. Unfortunately, in stark contrast to It Follows, we got DreamWorks' newest animated offering, Home.
Oh.
This feature, yeah, we'll get to that. It features an alien race called the Boov that take over Earth and relocate all humans to Australia. And the reason why they take over Earth is because they're running away from this other alien race that they think wants to kill them. However, we have one extremely annoying member of the Boov whose name is O, and he's played by Jim Parsons. He's a fugitive from his race because he makes a lot of mistakes. But then he meets a human named Gratuity Tip Tucci, who's voiced by Rihanna, and she's a human who has escaped their relocation and who is now looking for her lost mother. Mr. Parkinson, what did Home feel like for you?
Oh.
Yeah.
That basically sums it up, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, this thing is, it's a painful watch. It's tough to sit through.
Yeah. I mean, it feels slow, and then you realize, oh, this is a long movie. When is it going to end? I found myself checking my watch several times, like, when is this going to be over? I can't take it anymore.
For a lot of the time, it felt like a road movie, but without the character building stops.
Well,
and we spend a lot of the time trying to get to a place.
I would argue it has character building stops. It's just those character building stops are terrible.
Well, it doesn't stop a whole lot. I mean, a lot of it's just spent chilling out in the hover car.
Well, that's what I mean. There are stops of a sort. I mean, like
okay.
the one where they're stopped over the Atlantic Ocean and he dives off and she gets left alone, and so that gives him the sad mad thing that he says, as he put it.
It's terrible.
It is, but I'm saying that this is still the stop sort of thing that they do. Okay. But yeah, it's
none of it works though.
Well, the stops are all in pursuit of pushing the family is important message that it hammers like a freaking baseball bat to your skull.
It's about the only thing this film has on its mind. It wants to tell you how important your family is, so the kids who are probably under 10 are the only ones who are going to like it, can look up at their parents and go, Daddy, Mommy, I love you.
Yeah.
That's it. It even ruins a potentially cool villain by doing that, by pushing that narrative.
Yeah. A villain that's not even a villain.
No.
Unless you're referring to the leader of the Boov, which...
No, I'm not.
Okay, you're referring to the alien race, but yeah.
They could have gone much further with that.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Well, I mean, I kept flashing back to Galaxy Quest.
Sure.
Because it's kind of that same thing. It's like this alien race hiding out from this other evil alien race that wants to destroy them. Now, obviously, there's a little bit more of a twist in Home as to what's going on, but it's that same
Stupid
sort of thing.
Twist.
Yeah, well. Steve Martin was okay.
Steve Martin was the only voice actor in this movie who actually tried to be a voice actor.
Yeah. Jim Parsons playing Sheldon Cooper playing O. And he's so annoying. Like, if
part of it's on purpose, but you get past that point and then it's just worse.
God,
exactly.
Yeah. And then Rihanna playing a 13-year-old girl who sounds like she's 30.
She does not at all sound or act like a very young teenager.
Yeah. She has this magical understanding of how to drive a car, and then even more so, a hover car when O turns it into a 7-Eleven car somehow. He literally takes a bunch of stuff from a 7-Eleven and configures it somehow in 5 minutes to make it into a hover car. Somehow.
Because magic.
If there were magic in this movie, sure, but there's not.
There's not.
So,
I mean, this thing it's a pretty good premise. And we've got we've got a District 9 situation here with the humans.
Yeah.
They'll get quarantined in Australia, and we don't explore that at all.
Nope, we don't even really find out that they're in Australia until halfway through. And then
Well, we knew they were put in some utopic place. If you're 10 years old, it's utopic anyway.
Happy Human Land, as
Yes.
they call it.
Which is basically a 10-year-old's version of how great humanity could be.
Which, I'm sorry, it's a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Without the death.
But we never go there, really.
Nope.
We go there near the end, and by then, it's just a place.
Yeah.
That could have been a fun movie.
It could have been, or if it had really been like Alien Nation in reverse, or District
Sure.
9 in reverse, like you say. But instead, we get annoying hijinks with Jim Parsons and Gratuity Tip Tucci. Screenwriting is dead. What parent names their kid Gratuity?
None of them.
And then I almost wonder, and I'm not sure of this, but the fact that they moved from Barbados to New York, I'm trying to remember if that's Rihanna's actual backstory.
I'm not sure.
I think it might be, actually. But yeah, so if they did that, then it's like it's lazy, and now you've given her a character who's so badly named that it's not funny.
And at what point did they move? I mean, the mother doesn't... I mean, okay, the mother's voiced by Jennifer Lopez. She doesn't sound like she's from anywhere but...
Well, that, and then like you see this flashback where they're together, and like it's supposed to take place in the past because it doesn't look like the kid has aged much of any. So I'm like,
no, that was just from a
what's
little
going
bit
on?
ago because it takes place around Christmas time. Because the mother got taken at Christmas time, so they were just getting their snow.
But then it doesn't seem like the passage of time makes sense because it seems like
No, it doesn't.
It seems like it's taken time for them to do this, and then email doesn't work that way.
No. If something takes 48 hours to get to the end of the universe, and you hit cancel, it'll happen automatically. What? That's stupid. The cancel would take just as long because it's a signal.
Basically, the main conflict for that is his people are on the run, so they find Earth and set it up as a home. But then somehow O decides to send an Evite to a welcome home party, and instead of just sending it to one person, he does the send all thing, and it sends it to every being in the universe, including their mortal enemies who are trying to kill them. And so, oh yeah, we have to go get it within 48 hours, or else they're going to find us and destroy us, which...
And then they find them anyway,
And,
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and then Deus Ex Machina, because why not?
Because of course. Yeah. I will say, I liked one whole sequence in this film.
Yeah.
It's a fun scene in Paris.
Yeah, they play with gravity and they turn the Eiffel Tower upside down.
That's fun.
There's
a little bit of creativity.
I also like... I do like Steve Martin's character because he's this petulant comedic leader he thinks he's powerful. He's really not. With his shusher. And then my personal favorite joke in the film is he says, "Bring me my blankie of sadness," and it turns out it's a roll of bubble wrap. And he uses it as a comfort blanket. So okay, I thought that was rather funny. But
The whole movie does a bunch of that stuff with Earth.
Earth
items.
stuff. It's like, yeah, bicycle. Oh, this doesn't stand upright, so it's garbage.
Useless.
Or cats. What are cats for? They're nope, gone. So yeah,
It's so bad.
it's very bad. It's only 5-year-olds are gonna like it, and I'm sorry, we've said this before, but there are kids' films and there are family films. Family films are ones that can be enjoyed by anybody, and it's the type of film that should be made. Kids' films are ones that you put your Rugrat in front of for an hour and a half or so to keep them occupied. And frankly, if you're going to do that, don't put them in front of something that's so insulting. Have them actually be something useful, please. This is just utterly worthless.
I feel at this point you could just drop the mic and be done with it.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yes, thank you. I am awesome.
It's the one compliment you're going to get.
Yep. That's all I ever get from him, listeners.
So we move from Home to another comedy which might be just as bad. It's the highly anticipated by some people, I assume, comedy team-up between Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. Ferrell plays James King, an investment broker who gets charged and convicted of fraud, is given 30 days to get his affairs in order, and decides to hire his car washer Darnell, played by Kevin Hart, to train him and get him ready for prison. That is the entire movie, actually. Gerald, did you laugh at this?
This movie... So, interesting thing that I've noticed. This, so far, has been the year of rich white guy hires Kevin Hart for something.
Well, two films in, anyway.
Yeah, but... Oh, God. This movie is awful.
So, basically, we've got 10, 15 minutes of guys, prison rape is scary jokes. And I kid you not. That's the crux of it.
Yeah, basically, the entire middle of... Like, this movie is about an hour and 40 minutes long. There's about 10 minutes of actual plot. Everything else is comedic random sketches that could have shown in any order, and half of those sketches involve, please help me avoid prison rape.
That's the whole joke.
It's really uncomfortable to sit through. Like, I thought it was going to be bad because there was like a couple of them you got in the trailer.
Yeah,
but there's
it's way worse
lot
than that.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's one where they go to a gay bar to meet a restaurant, whatever, to meet somebody, and you see Will Ferrell in a toilet stall with this other guy trying to learn how to fillet him.
Because it's easier than prison rape, and that's the joke. That's it.
This was so disgusting.
And that's not even getting into the whole get hard euphemism thing.
The number of times that innuendo is used. I mean, the finale features like 10 different uses of it in the space of about 30 seconds.
Just because they hadn't got enough of it.
Yeah. And then, of course, because this is... Will Ferrell is one of the pastiest men you'll ever see, and Kevin Hart is decidedly not. Well, we must also get the white guy cultural appropriation jokes, because, yeah, that's hilarious.
Which sees the gang leader, played by rapper T.I., which is actually... his scenes are probably the best, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little sad, isn't it?
Just a bit. Well, that and then the scenes with Kevin Hart and his wife are also kind of funny. I mean,
sure.
There's one that you see in the trailer where he tries to act tough and she
slaps him.
She slaps him, and that's really funny. And then there's another one where there's I won't spoil exactly what makes it funny, but they're at the dinner table and they're talking about why he went to prison, quote unquote. He didn't actually go to prison, but Will Ferrell's character thinks he does because
he's racist.
Yeah, 1/3 of all black men have been in prison, so of course you're likely to have been in prison. So yeah. Kevin Hart makes up a story about how he went to prison, and the actual explanation.
It's a great story.
It's pretty funny. It's a good story, and then when you find out exactly what he's doing, okay, that's actually pretty funny. But
it's weird because there are two main jokes at play in that scene, and only one of them works.
Yeah, well.
The Will Ferrell part doesn't work at all.
That's because it's based around racism.
Well, no. The whole injury to the head thing.
Oh yeah.
In the dinner scene. It's just it comes across as another Will Ferrell comedy, but just with more racism and homophobia and
prison rape.
Yeah.
And of course, Lord Business and Unikitty.
They're getting married in this one. Alison Brie has a role, and and her character apparently has a name, which I found out earlier today. Actually, that's how poor the character is in this movie. I wish I was kidding.
She's a one-note gold digger because her dad is Craig T. Nelson, who is Will Ferrell's boss, and there's no mystery as to Will Ferrell being innocent.
He framed Will Ferrell.
Yeah, that's established from the beginning. It's and yet the plot, for what little there is let's prove Will Ferrell is innocent, and that only really takes place in the last 5 minutes of the movie.
So give it 10.
Fine, I'll be generous.
They get 10, and they also get that really super cool actions. Oh wait, no, that wasn't super cool at all. That was terrible.
That seriously irritated me because they go out of the way at the beginning of the film to show him practicing capoeira martial arts and show him how bad he is, but then at the end he gets really, really mad, and then suddenly he can do capoeira like Bruce Lee could do kung fu, and I'm like, what? No.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
This is the type of movie that defeats people like you and me. It's just
Yeah.
so hard to watch, and there's some jokes, but not anywhere near enough that it's worth watching, and most of them they'll make you uncomfortable.
I think its biggest saving grace is that in terms of worst comedy of the year, it has to compete with Hot Tub Time Machine 2 and Unfinished Business.
And I think it comes out above those two.
Barely.
But
Only
does.
because of the T.I. scenes and the two scenes with Kevin Hart and his wife. And once again, we get where Kevin Hart is not being loud and obnoxious, and he actually works.
Yeah, his character is the better character.
Yeah, he actually has motivations because, he owns his own business. He's trying to buy a house, and he wants to put his daughter in a better school. So that's actually kind of nice.
Instead of the racist white guy that we actually follow.
Which raises a bit of a plot hole. So if Ferrell's assets are frozen...
How do they transform his house into Sam Quentin?
Yeah, and then how is he supposed to pay Kevin Hart at the end of this? If he has no money?
No idea.
And yet Kevin Hart doesn't realize that he's not going to get paid, so I'm like...
And they never actually he never gives them the money. We never see that.
No, you don't. It concludes with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart driving off in a car and them making Get Hard jokes because,
Because of course they do.
Yeah, so... Don't go see this, please. Don't even rent it. Just skip it. This and Home, both, please. Just skip. I will say I like Home a little bit more, but only by a hair's breadth. Otherwise, these two
maybe
are awful.
I like this one more. Maybe it's toss up.
The fact that there's as much prison rape in it is just...
That's fair.
Why are we still doing this in 2015? I've said that before, but why are we doing this and in such copious volumes?
Because people go see it, I guess. We've got the weekend estimates at the time of recording, and Get Hard and Home both did really well.
Unfortunately. Although at least It Follows did very well, too, so we're very glad for that, because It Follows is a very good movie, which leads us into our time for retrospective again.
Yay.
So how has March been compared to January and February for you?
It's more of the same, isn't it?
Well, it's been more of the same, but I would say there's been a little bit more of better stuff, I think. There's maybe one or two more decent things. At least for me, now.
I don't know. It Follows is probably the best thing of this month. And
It Follows is definitely the best thing this month, but I think there's a couple other things.
Well, second might be, The Gunman.
Maybe. I'm not sure. We'll see. So, we started out the month with the aforementioned Unfinished Business.
Which is terrible, 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 terrible.
Unfinished Business should be a euphemism for bad comedy.
Can we make that a thing?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
It's definitely top 2 worst things I've seen this year, and that's
saying something.
Yeah, which out of all the bad things I've seen, this, and we talked about how it has no characters. It has no real plot. Its comedy is
It
non-existent.
has no jokes.
No, it was just unfunny and just painful to sit through.
It was a Vince Vaughn paid vacation.
Yep.
It's like the Adam Sandler ones, except worse.
Yep.
Somehow.
Yep, and mocking The Hangover, or imitating The Hangover, rather.
Which is the stupidest thing anyone can do.
It's one of those worst things. I think the only other thing would be like Twilight fanfiction film, but we've already talked about that.
And moving from Vince Vaughn paid vacation, we've got veteran British actors getting a paid vacation in the second best exotic Marigold Hotel, which it's more of the same. It's the first one, but more of it.
Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah.
It's thoroughly disposable and worth, like, I don't know, a rental or like a matinee if you can get it cheap. But it was okay. It had some funny moments, and it's great to see these veteran British talents getting to have at least something to do. So I was glad for that. But yeah, it's not a movie that if you miss that you'll be sorry.
No, it's like I said, it's more of it.
Yeah.
Like, if you liked the first one, you're probably gonna have a decent time with the second one. Some of it doesn't work at all, like Judi Dench and Bill Nye working as awkward teenagers, but
Yeah, especially for a subplot that we thought was already finished. So it's like, why are we doing this again? But at least we got Maggie Smith.
and she's great.
Maggie Smith is wonderful.
In fact, I would recommend seeing it just to see Maggie Smith be awesome.
Although it is still awkward how we don't really address that, she was a racist in the first movie. And
Yeah. Well, she grew and she's no longer a racist, Gerald.
of course not, because it's magic.
And it happens instantly like that.
Oh, of course. Now, one of the more contentious movies I think that's going to be out this year, at least between critics and mainstream audiences, would be Chappie, which is the last film from the opening weekend. It's Neil Blomkamp's newest sci-fi attempt at Dev Patel invents an AI robot, but Hugh Jackman don't like that, so of course he wants to destroy the AI robot. And meanwhile, the AI robot gets to learn and grow and be human under the tutelage of a bunch of gangsters played by South African rappers who can't act.
We didn't really... Neither of us liked Chappie a whole bunch.
I didn't like it. I didn't outright hate it, though, just because...
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
Yeah, it's got some good points. It's got some really bad points, but, I mean, the action scene is good. The
special effects are great.
The special effects are great. Chappie is a great character. Shalta Copley doing the voice acting and the CGI work for that. Good. Dev Patel it's definitely his better performance that weekend between this and Marigold Hotel.
The film's just not a brainless action movie. It's got stuff going on.
Yeah, it's just got too much going on because there's too many subplots, too many themes running, and Die Antwoord as actors are terrible, and their characters are terrible, so you don't care about them. And it rips off 5 other sci-fi robot movies, whether it's RoboCop or District 9 or Short Circuit or Appleseed or what have you. So you could do worse, but yeah.
It's just another Blomkamp, not outright failure, but not success either.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes you think he needs some sort of creative reins.
Oh, he absolutely
put on
needs some kind of filter, but we're doing Alien 5 next with him, so nope, that's not going to happen.
No, it might, though. I mean, you might get Ridley Scott in there, or James Cameron in there, or someone.
Your James Cameron's not going to be there. He's too busy working on Avatar 2 and 3.
Those will never come out. They're just going to keep getting pushed back.
He's working hard on them, Mr. Parkinson. How do you not doubt James Cameron?
I'm sure.
He's the great James Cameron. How do you not believe him?
He who directs one movie a decade, I'm sure.
5 or 10 years, yeah. Avatar.
Yeah, we're gonna get 3 Avatars back to back to back, I'm sure.
Of course, why wouldn't we?
So, moving on to the next week, Friday the 13th, perfect movie for that, Cinderella. Wait, what? That's not the perfect Friday the 13th movie. Who scheduled that?
Be kind, Mr. Parkinson. Be kind.
And have courage.
Of course. Have courage on Friday the 13th to sit through
There you go.
the middling Cinderella film.
Now, you were higher on this than I was.
I was.
Only a touch, but...
Just a bit. I mean, it came down to, I thought Lily James worked as Cinderella. The production design is gorgeous, at least with the palace scenes. Although
Yes.
I still like the country house scenes a little bit better than you. Helena Bonham Carter was also really good. Unfortunately, the CGI was not. The prince is bland, and yet he's still better than the animated film.
Yeah.
And it pulls a couple of plot elements that are new that kind of works for me. So, yeah, again, and I like as we said in our review, I like how sincere and upbeat it is, particularly in contrast to things like Maleficent and Alice in Wonderland. So, yeah, I thought it was an alright film. It's not the best thing, but for me personally, I would actually say it was the second best thing I saw in March. So,
I think I liked the idea of Cinderella more than I liked Cinderella itself. I liked more what it represented than what we got to see, if that makes sense.
yeah, I think that I understand that.
Like, watching it was kind of a bore, but then you take a step back and you go, well, as a countermeasure to something like Maleficent, yeah, okay, I guess I'm on board a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think what will really be interesting is when we see Pan later this year as another Disney live-action remake, and then contrast them to see which one works better. Because it seems as though Pan is definitely going to feature a lot more dark elements, particularly since Joe Wright's directing. So, yeah.
And then the Jungle Book movies, 2 of them.
Yeah, we'll see about that. And Alice in Wonderland too.
Oh, yeah. I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah, but in contrast to the happy and light Cinderella, we got the dark and gritty old action Liam Neeson guy again in Run All Night. Don't sound so excited.
But it's so exciting. Liam Neeson's just so energetic. Oh, wait, no, he's not. He's not energetic at all.
No, not really. He's, again, showing his age. Now, this is still better than Taken 3, but still. And
yeah, it's another one of these, and they all blend together.
they do, especially with the Liam Neeson set, because it's more of the same largely. And
You never know which character he's playing. It's Brian Mills all the time.
pretty much. And, I mean, at least we switch it up from a daughter to a son, but the son isn't much better because Joel Kinnaman's playing him,
And because he's forced to not do anything.
pretty much.
To protect his purity.
Yeah.
Which sounds just sillier the more I think about it.
Well, yeah.
Like it didn't work in the film, and then you take a step back and you go, "Oh, that's what we're doing, are we?"
Yeah, and it wastes a pretty good performance from Ed Harris, especially because it could have been more of a straight gangster movie, or like the fallout from a gangster movie of sorts that actually
Sure.
could have worked if you trimmed it down and changed up your focus. But instead, we get Liam Neeson trying to beat up a bunch of henchmen and what have you before trying to take out Ed Harris, and dark lighting, some clipped editing, and
I mean, they even have a previous relationship that's just it's there, but it doesn't actually do anything.
yeah, the writing is as ugly as the either CGI or hairpiece that they used in the flashback sequence for Liam Neeson.
Yes.
But hey, Nick Nolte gets work.
Yeah, he gets a whole scene.
Yeah, I mean, good for the director for throwing him a bone, I guess. Or
And then
not.
remember how Common was in this movie?
Common was in this movie? Oh yeah, he disappears and reappears randomly for 2 scenes.
He's the Terminator.
Oh yeah, which it's very, very weird, him coming off of winning an Oscar for the song from Selma, and then he's playing a hitman.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
That's a little awkward.
It
Now-
just made me appreciate John Wick some more.
Very much so. Although, what did work for us as an old guy action movie was the following week with The Gunman.
Well, it worked better.
Better, yeah. It wasn't great, but it worked better than these other examples that we've done. I mean, Sean Penn steps into the role, and I mean, his rippling biceps attest to how he certainly worked
He
himself
prepared.
up for this. Yeah, he definitely did. Now, his head still looks weird on his body, but whatever. And then the fact that he looks way too old compared to what he's supposed to be in the plot. but whatever.
But whatever.
Yeah,
And it helped that it had a plot.
it had a plot. It was silly plot, but at least had a plot. And there wasn't a bunch of clipped editing, so by actually letting us, see what's going on, rather than trying to give me a shaky cam headache.
Yeah. And there's a bull that kills somebody.
Yeah, I can't say I'd ever seen that before, although...
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty fun, although I still don't know what Javier Bardem was supposed to be doing in this film.
I don't know what any of the supporting characters were really doing. I mean, it's just Sean Penn.
Yeah, Sean Penn was great. Everybody else, okay, sure.
Most of them just show up and collect a paycheck, and then they're out of there.
Idris Elba being the main one doing so, but...
Yeah. That was a waste, really.
That was a waste. I mean, well, I don't know. I have to flash back to the kind of thriller film he did last year, and the name is escaping me, and I can't. Where he's this escaped convict, and he's
No Good Deed, is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I would still rather sit through his part in The Gunman than that whole film, because that also featured a very terrible twist at the end. That they actually canceled critical screenings for that because they didn't want critics to ruin the twist.
They said that.
Well, that's what they said. It was a lame twist.
They really just didn't want critics to lambast it before it came out.
Which they did anyway.
Well, of course.
And it didn't even do that great at the box office just because it was September, so yeah. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent.
That's okay. I'd rather do that than talk about the next movie, which is Insurgent.
Don't you mean Divergent again?
The Divergent series Insurgent Divergent 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Divergent 2 Diverge Harder.
To diverge, to gent.
Yeah.
It's Divergent again.
It is. I mean, they took out the training montages, but it's still bland action. It's still utterly generic romance that's practically non-existent, which is in some ways an improvement, some ways not.
Mediocre acting.
Yeah, I mean, Shailene Woodley's fine, but she's just working with awful material. Theo James is boring.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Miles Teller was okay.
Miles Teller's fun, although that's mostly because his character gets snarky quips that I find funny. Kate Winslet gets to chew the scenery for another movie, unfortunately.
Yeah. And then we get the MacGuffin.
Box, yes. That turns out to, again, compete with the Maze Runner from last year for one of the worst exposition dump finales I've ever seen.
And yet,
that
was only when the movie started getting good.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we said when we reviewed Insurgent, we wondered where the plot could go. I have since read up on where the plot goes in Allegiant, and oh, good grief.
I haven't because I don't care enough.
It's... Oh, I see why they're doing two films now, but at the same time, oh, good grief, why?
Yeah. And then we go to this week, which we've talked about a good deal already, but Get Hard sucked.
Did you have to make that innuendo? And actually, my question is, did you do that on purpose?
I had to make one. I'm sorry.
I hate you. Why would you do that?
I had to do one.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. I apologize, listeners.
Oh. I must now go weep in a corner.
But it was not a good movie.
No, it was terrible, and a number of times I've said "oh" in this podcast has been amazing. But yeah,
it's all because of Home.
Well, yeah, and as bad as that movie is, it's rather appropriate. So
yeah. And
then It Follows rounded us out, and that was great. So
it's finally a good movie, a genuinely good movie.
Yay! We finally got a movie.
We got
it's unequivocally good. Like we
Yeah.
could quibble about whether The Gunman was good or Cinderella was good. I thought they were pretty decent, but yeah, we genuinely agree. It Follows is a good movie and a good horror film, particularly because most horror films are very much not.
Well, I mean, just look at the Lazarus Effect.
Yeah.
And
or
the Woman in Black 2. That's what
then,
we've gotten this year so far for horror.
Yep, and April doesn't have much better in store for us, unfortunately. Maybe it has a couple of things, but we kick off the weekend with the big one.
Furious 7.
Yes. Can you believe that there have been 7 of these?
No.
I can't either.
Mostly because I forget there are a couple. I forget Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift exist, and in this one we're actually making mention of Tokyo Drift. It's becoming a big plot thing.
Well, of course, they've even managed to get Jason Statham.
And Kurt Russell.
Yay, Kurt Russell.
So that'll be the biggest movie of the month. By far, I think.
Financially, for sure, and I think in terms of critical importance, probably we'll see how well it actually does. But and the depressing thing is we're going to have a pretty short week next week because that's the only major wide release that's coming out that we're aware of. So,
well, nothing wants to compete against it.
Well, no, I mean it's going to make $100 million that weekend, I think, because the last one made close to 100, and then when you throw in the fact that Paul Walker passed away during the filming, I mean, people are going to turn out to see that as well. So, and then I mean they're bringing in Ronda Rousey as well. So, So,
do you think this is going to be another Dark Knight? That type of number?
No, it's not going to be that high. The Dark Knight was a record-shattering comic book spectacle. There's no way Furious 7 is going to reach that height. It'll reach $100 million, but not $165 million, or $168 is what Dark Knight made. Yeah. So, no, there's no way it gets that high. It might
in terms of total gross.
Well, that would require it to be $1 billion film, and I can't see it be $1 billion film.
Well, the last one did really, really well.
Did it get like 700, 800 million, maybe?
Something like that. Yeah, it was. I'll go check. 788.
Okay.
So do you think Paul Walker's death adds another almost 200 million?
No, I could see 850. Maybe
900.
I think 900 is pushing it.
Okay.
I think I could see 850. I can't. Okay. Yeah, it's not going to hit $1 billion. That's too much. I mean, plus the Dark Knight also I think didn't that have 3D?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Christopher Nolan doesn't do 3D.
Thank goodness. Well,
yeah.
Wasn't Interstellar 3D?
Huh?
Interstellar.
No, that was just IMAX.
Was it?
He did not do 3D.
Okay, good.
He only did IMAX. He intentionally said, I refuse to do 3D. He doesn't do 3D. He hates 3D.
Well, good on him.
Yeah, that's something I praise him for that. But anyway, so yeah, I can't see it doing $1 billion like Dark Knight did. 850 maybe, and it'll break 100 million opening weekend, I think. But
yeah,
no, the Dark Knight box office is going to be the superhero movie that comes out, but that's for another month. So,
well, hopefully Furious 7's good.
Well, early signs suggest probably, but we'll see.
Yeah. So, moving on to the next week, we've got only one wide release that we know of so far.
Yeah, it gets kind of weird because we've got all these limited releases coming in from March that are kind of trickling in, so we're not sure exactly how the schedule is going to work with that, but the only one we know for sure is a film that I really don't want to say the title to because it's another Nicholas Sparks movie.
It's The Longest Ride, folks.
It looks so awful.
And we've got another dozen or so unadapted Nicholas Sparks novels. They're all the same.
Yeah, pretty much. There's like, sappy romance, but there's got to be some kind of dark problem that they have to overcome because otherwise tension would be non-existent because, romance is so easy, so we have to throw in problems.
Exactly. Now, Ex Machina is listed as releasing this week. Neither of us are getting it that week.
Sadly not. That's the movie we're both really, really anticipating, by the way.
I mean, we'll talk about it now. This thing looks great.
This thing looks fantastic. I mean, it's Oscar Isaac is this sort of reclusive robot scientist who brings in Donald Gleason to test this robot AI that he's developed, that's played by Alicia Vikander, and there's obviously
then things happen.
Yeah, there's dark twists, and it plays again with the question of like who's really human, would you know if you were human, things like that. So it looks really good, and I mean it's got a pretty good cast, so we're both really excited for that.
It's smart sci-fi. You don't get smart sci-fi that much.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, I guess one of the other interesting ones we could talk about maybe is Danny Collins, possibly, depending on how that works.
Well, I've seen Danny Collins already, so I'm game whenever you get it.
Well, I'm getting it in the same weekend as The Longest Ride, so we we could talk about it that weekend at least.
which I won't spoil. It's Al Pacino.
Playing a lounge singer.
Well, no, he's playing a rock star.
Oh, really? I thought it was a lounge singer. Okay.
No, it's like he's a coked up drunk of a rock star who gets a letter from John Lennon that was written 40 years earlier and decides that that's his epiphany, and he decides to make a bunch of life-changing things, which involves him trying to connect with a son he's never met and is now fully grown. It's slightly more interesting than the trailer makes it out to be, and I really don't want to give away my thoughts on it, so I'll leave it there.
Please don't. We'll definitely get into that, and we'll also, I think, at some point in this month, get into The Woman in Gold, which is a period piece of sorts where it's Helen Mirren is this older woman who grew up in Austria during the Nazi occupation, and her aunt was this beautiful woman who Gustav Klimt painted, and then the Nazis stole that painting, and she's trying to recover it, but it's currently in the possession of a National Art Gallery. And so Ryan Reynolds is a lawyer from the U.S. who teams up with her to sue the government of Austria to get the painting back to her family. Which
sounds like the most thrilling movie of the year.
Yeah, it looks pretty bland and bad, so we'll see how that turns out.
I'm not really looking forward to it, but
yeah. So another set of films that we're going to get moving to the 17th. Your monthly reminder that Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 is a thing.
It's a thing, guys. It's happening, and we can't stop it at this point. There's nothing we can do.
And sorry to say, but if I hear you laughing at that trailer, I want to pop you over the head because.
But Gerald, the horse kicks him. The horse kicks him.
That's not funny.
That's really not.
Nor is the stupid joke about him running into glass and it's clean, so he doesn't see it.
How often have we used the people running into glass gag?
Many, many, many times.
I think we need a few more menus in there.
Unfortunately. But we're also getting Unfriended that weekend.
Which it may be good. I don't know. It's a horror movie.
I don't know how it could be good. It's horror hijinks through Skype.
Yep.
The entire film takes place through Skype, it seems.
Yep.
What?
Well, it could function like Open Windows did, which took place primarily on a computer screen.
The product placement is just going to be enough to annoy me, but then, like, everything I've seen from this trailer just... No.
Well, it got decent enough early reviews, so...
We'll see.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but...
Yeah, maybe I'll be surprised, but I don't know.
And that weekend we also get Child 44, which actually looks like it might be okay.
This one I'm really looking forward to. It's a mystery of it's a bunch of kids are being kidnapped and killed by this mysterious serial killer, and it's up to Tom Hardy playing this Russian soldier guy, being ordered by his boss, who's Gary Oldman, to try to find out what's going on. All the while, the official position is these things aren't actually happening. So
I think it's going to be okay.
I think it looks pretty good, and I mean, I'm anticipating it because it's Tom Hardy, and I love Tom Hardy, so...
And he typically picks pretty good roles.
He usually does, unless we're talking about This Means War, and we would rather forget that he made that.
Yeah, we can ignore that one.
Yeah.
So typically for a reason.
Yeah.
Hey, he and Numi Rapace, they team up again.
True.
They were in The Drop together last year. Or was it last year? Yeah, it was. That was 2014.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, the final weekend of April, we've got The Age of Adeline. Do we need The Age of Adeline?
Adeline Bowman will never age another day.
Oh, stop. Don't. I've seen the trailer far too many times by now.
So have I.
I mean, I think it was supposed to come out like December.
Maybe. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but
I feel like it got delayed, and that's why we've seen it for so long.
could be. But it's basically just let's come up with some kind of magical contrivance in order to have a young actress who never ages. I mean, at least when In Time did it, they had a social commentary reason for why they did it.
Yeah.
But here it's just, oh, magic. She gets struck by lightning following a car crash, and she doesn't age.
And it's Blake Lively, so it's kind of hard to get excited about her being in a movie.
Yeah, it's like a weird twist on Benjamin Button, kind of, sort of.
Kind of, sort of, a little. Maybe.
Yeah, so, except without David Fincher being behind it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're not looking forward to that one either.
But then, nothing's coming out that weekend because, well, May 1st is happening, so...
Well, maybe. I mean, I'm probably going to get at least one other movie that I don't want to think about, but we'll see. April's just going to be weird in terms of release schedule, where we're probably not going to know exactly what we're going to be reviewing that week until, like, the day before, so where we actually know what our weekend schedule looks like. So
it really depends on just what gets expanded and what comes to us. And
yeah, I mean, the only week where we're definitively, where we know easily what we're going to talk about is the 17th, where we've got Child 44 and Paul Blart and Unfriended. Yep. Otherwise, it's like, okay, we know Fury 7, we know The Longest Ride, and then we know Age of Adeline, and that's about it. So it's
going to be... will do Ex Machina, we just don't know when.
Yeah, it's just touch and go. We hope that it comes out this month, because if it doesn't, then we will be weeping, because we've been waiting for this movie ever since we first heard about it.
Which was last year.
Yeah.
It's been months now that we've been like, please, Ex Machina, come out.
Yes, I want a really, really good sci-fi movie.
Interstellar doesn't count.
Yeah, we don't want to bait the Christopher Nolan fanboys.
Yes, we do. They'll give us hits. Interstellar wasn't that good.
No, it wasn't.
There you go.
Best movie of the year? I don't think so.
Not even close. Not even top, 40.
Probably not. I would have to go back and think about that one, but whatever.
It'd be around there.
Something like that, but that's a whole other issue that we won't dive into, because, yeah.
Also, if the Christopher Nolan fanboys listen to this point, good on you. So, next week we've only got Furious 7. That's kind of a weak week, but what are you going to do?
Yes, although, let me also say, I am a Christopher Nolan fanboy. I just don't like Interstellar.
That's fair.
So,
I've liked most of... Well, I even like Interstellar to a point.
Yeah, it's just, not the greatest thing, because it's too long. It has no understanding of passage of time. Its characters are kind of mediocre half the time, and love equals MC squared just does not work as a concept. When you're trying to make a robot that is Christopher Nolan try to do a movie that's about emotion, it doesn't work.
You can follow the Interstellar hating Gerald on the Twitter at FilmFlashNC. I'm on there as well at MartyrTweet.
Why don't you refer to yourself as Interstellar hating?
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. I just don't like it.
Well, because I want the Nolan fanboys to attack you and not me. See how this goes?
This is what I put up with every week. Practically every day from him.
You're welcome. So send Gerald your hate. Until next time, this is Madam Movies signing off.
Take care, everybody.